Welcome to the Tao of Pizza, where we feature top logistics leaders, entrepreneurs, and supply chain innovators and share their inspiring stories with a holistic twist.
Yeah, Mark Hiddleson here, host of the Tao Pizza podcast, where I talk with top industry innovators in the warehousing, logistics, and supply chain business with a holistic twist. Before I introduce Joe Ferris, this episode is brought to you by Specialized Storage Solutions. Listen, I've been in the logistics and storage industry for several decades, and I know I don't look that old, but it's true. We provide industry-leading warehouse storage solutions nationwide. So basically, if you have a warehouse that needs racks, shelving, carts, conveyors, or mezzanines, we help with the design, engineering, installation, inspections, and repairs to help clients optimize their logistics operations. I mean, Joe, sometimes people don't even realize we can actually help with permit acquisition services. We take a holistic look at your entire business supply chain ecosystem to develop the resources for continually improving your operation. To learn more, visit specialracks.com or give us a call at 707-732-3892. And I'll even give you my personal email address for podcast listeners. So email me, markhiddleson@aol.com, if you're ready to take your warehouse, storage, and retrieval systems to the next level. Now, before introducing today's guest, I want to give a big thank you to Michael Thomas, and go check out our interview. Mike is a senior supply chain exec, specialized in grocery, cold storage, transportation, and logistics. And he introduced me to today's guest. So today we're joined by Joe Ferris. Joe's been in the warehousing and distribution business since he was 18 years old. He started as an order picker for Raley's, using a grocery list and a pencil to pull orders in their Sacramento warehouse. For 24 years, he worked his way up to management, from foreman to operations manager, and that led in 2014 to a career move to grocery outlet as a general manager in charge of the Sacramento Dry Goods Grocery Distribution Center. And eventually he became senior general manager in charge of both Sacramento and Pennsylvania DCs. Currently, he's the director of distribution center operations for an international sports apparel business. At 40 years old, he completed the Michigan State University Supply Chain Master's Program for a personal boost in the arm in his professional life. The master's program opened his eyes to the bigger picture of supply chain industry, gave him the boost he was looking for, and unparalleled confidence and knowledge of the supply chain industry. Joe, welcome to Tao Pizza.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, this is going to be great. You are one of the first people that I thought of when we started working on this project a couple months ago. So really, thank you. Thank you for making it work. And I know we had to work on our schedules to make this happen. So I appreciate you.
It's all good, man. I'm happy to do it.
So the pulling and picking orders on pencil, I love that story because I was talking with somebody. I had a meeting with my accountant, and I was thinking, I'm always asking them detailed questions. He always seems surprised that I know about, but I remembered I kind of wanted to screw around in high school instead of taking like the classes I was supposed to take, like chemistry and physics. So my senior year, I thought it'd be cool to take bookkeeping because I'm like, hey, I want to start a business. Wow. So I learned, and I forgot this, I learned how to do accounting by like writing on ledgers, like everything was on double entry accounting. It's kind of confusing if you don't know what it is, but I was just thinking like, man, I learned that. So how does that, I know you've done a lot of projects since then with higher technology, voice picking and everything. How did that learning by pulling, they call it picking to paper, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. How did that?
It's I think some gives me little street cred, right? When we're talking in the industry. Where, I've been here long enough that I remember a Xerox copy of a piece of paper that the store called our transportation office and said, this is what I want. And it was literally, and back then it was like head lettuce. There was those different bags of salad. You go to a grocery store now and there's 40 different bags of salad. Then it was head lettuce, and it was green apples, red apples. It was very basic. And it's just to see the evolution, it just helped me understand, the business a little better to know that I remember back in the day when we used to do it this way. And now we are, talking to a Siri every day to get these orders, and we're able to change things on the fly. Where before, if when I was working at Raley's in the produce department, you had to know what red chard was, and bok choy, and collard greens. You had to know what they were, not just the box. You had to know what they were because they could move every day. And if there was strawberries going out heavy, then you had to know where to go get the strawberries and how many, and, basic math, you had to know what a tie-high was. And I think it just gives me a little street credit. I've been here long enough. I remember that, how basic things were. And really, it's still the same. Get it out the door, get it right, and get it out the door, and don't screw anything up. Make sure the customer gets good product.
Yeah. And then so it wasn't only for you, it was a nutrition lesson. That's what you
yes, exactly.
And everything like that.
Exactly. It was so fun. And so you have this, stack of paper this big, and you have it on a clipboard. You have your pencil behind your ear, and you're marking things up. And then you go get some broccoli, which all had ice on it, and then you put it on the pallet, and then ice would fall onto your order. And then, it's just, one horror story after the other. It was all these wood boxes that would fall apart. Cantaloupe were 80-pound boxes of cantaloupes. They were these mesh crates that that weighed a ton, and you just basically lugged it around everywhere, and you just tried to put it on the bottom of the pallet. Heavy to light, which is still, that's the way you're supposed to do. You're supposed to start at the heavy stuff way up. But quick story about that: the cantaloupe, this heavy ass cantaloupe, 25 cases to a pallet. And I'm brand new rookie, and my trainer goes, all right, go get 20 of them. So I go to the pick slot, I grab 20 of them heavy ass boxes instead of just taking 5 off and grabbing the rest of it. So that was like lesson number 1. Well, think it out, think through this a little bit. Don't just go nuts in there.
Yeah.
Think a little bit before you get going.
Look at the big picture. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
He took 20 boxes off, left 5. Now,
he's like, man, what took you so long?
Yeah, he's thinking,
holy crap.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you about voice pick later, but I had a question I'd love to ask, how did you decide when you were 18 to get in the business? Like, what about your background either made sense or didn't make sense that you were going into the grocery business?
Yeah. So my dad owned his own business since I was 5 years old. He worked at Libby's Cannery in Sacramento, which was right next to the grocery outlet distribution center off of Belvedere, was right there. And everybody got laid off. Libby's moved out of town in 1977. My grandpa had owned a appliance business on Stockton and Fruit Ridge, Stockton Boulevard, Fruit Ridge Road, Southside. Yeah. He owned this business in the 50s and 60s. He worked for Bruner's. He took what he learned at Bruner's and opened his own company. So he had this appliance business, and my grandmother would, sell brand new appliances or whatever, a lot of used stuff that they would get, and service work. So my grandpa opened it back up. My dad went to work for him, same building, everything. And I worked for him. I worked for him since I was 12 years old, off and on. I'd go work, I would flip burgers for a while, or I would go to Pep Boys, and I worked at the parts counter for a little bit. But I was going to go back and work for him and take over the business at 18 years old. He goes, no, you're not. He goes, this isn't going to last. He goes, Rent-A-Center was already starting to come in. And he had a huge store, and it was used furniture and new and used appliances. So there was a market for it. But once Rent-A-Center came in, he could see the writing on the wall.
Yeah.
It wasn't, parts were getting more expensive. The area wasn't great. He was worried about my mom. It was only them too. He couldn't afford employees other than me because he wouldn't pay me squat,
Yeah.
When I started working for him, I was getting like $5 a day, and I was lucky if I got that. So,
yeah.
And a free lunch, McDonald's.
Exactly. I started working when I was young too, but I didn't start getting paid till I was about 10, and I didn't start paying taxes until I was 12.
The tax man got you.
Yeah. I was washing dishes at a bakery, making like $2.65 an hour or something, and they started out taxes. So great. And I know that area because I went to college in Sacramento. I love Sacramento, and I've worked in South Sac a lot. Well, you're distributed. We met in South Sac.
Yeah.
I know that Fruit Ridge and Stockton. I'll have to, next time I drive by there.
Yeah. It's rough. It is really, it's a lot of homeless, and Sacramento has a homeless problem. And it's a lot there. And it's, a lot of liquor stores and a lot of, it's just a rough area.
I used to play pool at a pool. I think there's a pool hall or something.
Yeah. It's off of Rouge. That's Joint Q.
Joint Q. Yeah. That's when I was in college, we used to.
I can identify most bar-related buildings in Sacramento. So I'm better than Google.
Exactly. It's warehousing and distribution. We've gone from logistics to bars in Sacramento.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Yeah. So my dad said no. He said, I don't want you to take over the business. His best friend who had worked with him at Libby's, and he was his best man in his way. I mean, he was, he helped raise me basically. He was working for Raley's. He'd already been there for quite a few years. And he goes, you want a shot? I got you. So it was either him or it was either go to Raley's or Tony Angolia's in West Sac was also hiring at the time. So it was whoever hired me first, I was going. And I graduated at 17, so I couldn't go to work till 18 anyway. So I was, working for my dad, screwing around. I went to work for Macy's for a little bit, so I got to Raley's and it was a small group. I was number 100 on the seniority list. So, and I can't remember how many stores we had, but you memorized every store number as well and where they were in California. Excuse me, it was that easy. But we loaded our whole truck. We picked all the orders for the truck and loaded the whole truck. So, and it was almost like sports. It really became almost competition. Who could do it faster? Who could do it better? Everybody signed their name on their pallets. So when they got to the store, you would get feedback that say, hey, Joe's pallets look great this time. Really appreciate it. And their big store on Freeport, store 405, I'll never forget it. You could load in the summertime half the trailer with just strawberries and watermelons. And then bananas. I mean, it was just half the trailer was that, and then you just picked like all that, the wet produce or potatoes, whatever else. But yeah, it was jumping. It was fun. It was pretty tight knit group. I worked swing shift, and it was just, a lot of those guys are still my friends.
It's still to this day.
Yeah.
And you had competitive, it was competitive nature.
But also camaraderie too. I mean, and it was good morale and it was helping each other too. So if you went and you had to pick grapes and there was 96 cases on a pallet and I needed 40 and you needed 40, we went and did it together. I grabbed yours with you and then you grabbed it with mine. So that it was always, equal to where I wouldn't just grab mine and you're waiting for me to finish so you can get an easy pick.
Yeah.
There was a lot of that.
I didn't realize. So it was a really good culture. Even, back then was what, 80s in
it was 90 when I got hired there.
1990. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and what, so what made you decide to climb the ladder and kind of what was the biggest contributor of getting there, you think?
So I became a foreman. So it went from West Sac, which was a small warehouse in West Sac, and it went up to Natomas. And in Natomas, it was a big DC. It was the first big DC. It was Raley's, Coca-Cola had a big plant up there.
Yeah.
And Arco Arena.
Right.
And a lot of sheep. There was the shepherds ran amok in that area. It was just sheep everywhere. You turn the corner, there's another ship. You could almost run them over sometimes. I mean, I got to get to work.
And that's when the Kings were actually good and they were in the playoffs and the Lakers made fun of us and they did that cowbell thing.
Yeah.
And then they didn't.
I went to Arco they had the 64 there for college and they had the first round there. And that's when Stoudemire was playing for Arizona and Jay Kidd was playing for Cal.
Nice.
And so CBS is out there and they're in Alabama, they're all across the country. So they're streaming everything and they shoot over, they have a helicopter go over Arco Arena and all you see is the sheep everywhere. I'm like, now everybody in the country thinks Sacramento is this little cow town. And sure as heck. And then the Kings and the Bill Jackson and all that and them cowbells.
Yeah.
They still sucked in 90. They weren't very good. It was Reggie Theus. Reggie Theus used to go pheasant hunting out there.
Nice.
You remember Reggie Theus? He was Mr. King for a while.
Yeah, I remember the name. I remember that.
Yeah.
But
Reggie Theus, Joe Klein, Kenny King. I mean, I could name all. that was a big deal for me because I used to watch the Warriors on Channel 36 when I was a kid with like Joe Barry Carroll and young Don Nelson, all those guys, and to have a team in Sacramento was like so exciting.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember that. And they used to have the uniforms that were kind of powder blue and
the baby blues. Yeah.
The baby blues.
Yeah. They're popular now, but they weren't then. There was also the Daisy Duke shorts. So nobody's rocking them.
Yeah, I wore those. My kids love to make fun of me because all the pictures of me playing high school basketball, his shorts are like up there. Dad, you're out there in underwear. I mean, even the underwear they make nowadays for men are longer than the shorts.
No kidding, them shorts. Yeah. Well, they did call them shorts for a reason.
Yeah. That's all. And then
so they moved to Natomas, and then it was just there was opportunity at that point. It got a lot bigger. It was a small group. I was number 100, and through the evolution, I got up to like number 40 or 50 on seniority, and there was 400 people working there. 400 warehousemen, where there were warehouse people there, and it was just a lot of opportunities came up. Additional shifts. They brought in a Manhattan system. We went from paper to RF picking.
Okay.
So, they needed people to be able to train and be able to do this and to get through it. And just to move a warehouse and the inventory and everything else, but not a warehouse, it was a warehouse to a distribution center, a real distribution center. That was, I don't want to say state of the art, but it was nice in 1992, to go from a warehouse that leaked, it rained out, where the puddles were going to be, to this beautiful facility that we never thought we would fill up, by the way. There's no way you're going to fill it. It was like probably 500,000 square feet. You'll never fill it. And it was filled up, within a month.
Yeah. Yeah. We toured that it was either the late 90s or early 2000s with Warehousing Education and Research Council.
Oh, nice.
I remember touring it, and it was early 2000, probably 2001, maybe 2002. And then I remember they were state of the art. But that was one of the reasons we were touring that facility, is because to look at their fleet management system with the lift trucks, and there was the process. It wasn't, and there was something else about their fleet too, because the Raleys had their own, and I don't know if they had this earlier, but they had their own trucks, right, for deliveries.
Yes, they still do. Yeah, so it's all ran through Ozark. So Ozark is the trucking company of Raley's. So there's Ozark trucks, and then there's Raley's trucks, and the Ozarks are yellow and the Raley's are red right now.
Yeah.
But they all use the same trailers. And then so Ozark is the non-union shop and Raley's is the union shop.
Yeah. And so we met. And again, I mentioned in the beginning through Michael Thomas.
Yeah.
And this is one of my favorite stories because I've been doing business with Mike since 1997. He was my first big client. And the thing I loved about Mike, I mean, he's excitable, like he's excited.
Oh, yeah.
Really high.
Bloody hell.
I asked him about Bloody Hell.
I listened to it. That was awesome.
He didn't look too happy about it, but
no, just frustration.
I have to give him, a lot of credit because he was one of those customers that had a few of these. He got really excited about racking because he could see they were. He was with Christian Salvinson at the time, which became Versacold, and a few other things. Is different now. It's Miracle now. But they were bringing on Smart Final, and they had a room that was a cooler. They converted it to dry. It was something he figured out in the numbers. They could squeeze all these extra pallet positions into this building. And one of the things I like about ops guys in this business is they're kind of a little bit sales too, because he kind of sold you're not just operations, you're getting new clients. And so it was a big new client. He got really excited, and we did that. And so he was always looking for opportunities. And so I was working with him, and for probably, you started 2014 in Grocery Outlet. Yeah. So for about 9 years, we were working with your predecessor, and we kind of had a system. Is that we would kind of go in, do whatever we want, and then Thomas would come in and complain, and then Steve would just kind of shrug his shoulders, like, "Well, he's just complaining." Now I've been here for years, and then when you came on board, you started holding us to a little bit higher standards, and we were falling down. And I remember I never like to go over anybody's head, right? But at the time, I'd known Mike for 17 years. We had parked $100,000 worth of inventory in your parking lot. But it wasn't paid for yet. And and you're like, I'm like, this guy, we're not living up to it. I remember I told you, you're like, you guys suck. You're doing this, you're doing this. I'm like, I know, you're right. And I go, and what make it worse is you're our best client. This is like the best we can do.
Yeah.
So Mike asked me about it too. He said, we're having some complaints. I said, well, they're all legitimate. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing. I go, and we're trying to, so you decided to use another contractor for a project. And I was kind of thinking like, you kind of have to do that to see, it's a tough operation. That was a tough place to do business. It was a tough environment. And so what I told you was we're not breaking up. We're just seeing other people.
Exactly. Yeah.
So,
the grass wasn't greener, by the way.
so thank goodness you hired us. I think you hired us in the middle to finish up that project because
it was the same. It was a lot of the same issue. It was that trying to get people to come in and commit, and you're not there to hold their hand and make sure that they're there to do it when they say they're going to do it. Okay, they'll be there on Thursday at 8 o'clock in the morning, and it's Thursday at 3 p.m, and then they want to wander in because they've already committed to 14 other jobs, and their leader or their owner or whatever, he can't say no. I mean, that you can't say no. How are you going to turn somebody down?
Yeah.
And that's what they did. They say, yeah, I can commit. I'll do it. And then when they show up, they show up. But you better get the hell out of their way because they're going to get it done. Yeah. And it was, and seeing other people, and the grass wasn't greener. And it really was the pressure I felt because Mike wasn't happy. And I said, well, I need to do something. And sometimes a little shakeup, maybe everybody starts to do a little different. And it doesn't mean that it's the end of the world. It doesn't mean that, there's personal feelings. It's just business is business sometimes. And that sucks a lot of times.
Yeah. Yeah. So I appreciate it. And I took it as an opportunity. And I was just thinking, man, I hope it's as bad as I think it is. But we started doing things, it took us a while, but I think after about, within a year to a year and a half, I had upgraded. We hired an ops manager to be there.
Yeah.
He wasn't there every day, but he would be there to start the jobs, end the jobs. A lot of times we did. Yeah. We used our own people for your project. A lot of times which we had never done in the past. And then another big thing was engineering. I basically developed an engineering department so that we could get those drawings out because we'd always, the drawings would draw it on a piece of cardboard or would say, match the levels across. Well,
we went with that a lot.
And so if you're matching this, sometimes they get in the middle and they would decide to match something else. And they would say, well, you said match that. So we matched it. And so,
and we were doing it quite a bit. I mean, how many times over those years, I was there for 7 years. How many projects did we do? I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah.
We went from, so when I first got hired there in 2014, we were shipping about 300,000 cases. And I think Mike talked about this on your podcast, they're averaging 650 in the same space. That's the storage that we evolved to with the pushback racking, the floor racking, and just creating this, the center of the house being where you keep your order pickers and the outside is where you keep your reserves and you flush everything in. Heavy on the bottom, light on top. That way you're not spending a bit of extra time or safety of putting, heavy ass pallets up to the top. It's amazing how that place looked when I left compared to when I got there, when everything was bulked up. The slide rack was everywhere. The orange racking was everywhere. I mean, it was pretty shocking, pretty impressive though too. That me and you, but we teamed up quite a bit of times. Cody and Jeff were a huge difference maker too.
Yeah. And
Cody's great, by the way. If I could just say that, Cody is the best. I love that kid.
Everybody loves Cody. I had a client that said, hey, give me a ballpark for the installation on this project so I can compare it to anything else. And he'd been working with Cody on they moved. Like, by the way, it's a big deal to move. Well, when you move, you find out where all the dead bodies are buried, right?
Yes.
So it's probably going to be about 40,000. That's a rough guess, but it's an extra 10,000 because Cody's going to manage. He's like,
nice.
Yeah. No, but Cody was awesome. And we didn't have those eyes and ears on the field in those other days. Yeah. Kind of, we evolved, but I mean, we're giving better service to all of our clients. I mean, that engineering,
that's great.
That we weren't getting before because we've got better drawings. We've got, access. And that's still a hard thing. Even when you have it on paper, here's the level, 68 inches, 50, 52, 60. And then you build it. I always tell people it's like when you move into your house, you don't know where the TV goes until you put the couch in.
Yeah.
So it's hard. Go ahead.
No, that's it. You nailed it. That's the whole thing. You get there and you're like, oh crap. Or there's opportunities and then you're trying to do it on the fly.
Yeah.
But with ours, it was making sure that the reserve, that you weren't wasting space in the reserve. Space optimization was huge, where our pallets were fitting in there and there wasn't a lot of gap. Because we were shoving a lot and we that we had extra, we ended up getting another warehouse, renting space for another warehouse. We'd load things on trailers. It was feast or famine.
Yeah.
And when it was a feast, you used every nook and cranny you could. And that's when Mike would get on my ass about, how come that rack's open? Why do we have this? Well, why is there an X across that rack? Well, Cody will get here and he'll get it fixed.
Yeah.
He would want to Spider-Man up and go fix it himself. I'm like, you're not climbing up there. Knock it off.
So that's another thing we did is we had dedicated equipment and something that we never had. We were always using your equipment. We need to.
Yeah.
Because a lot of customers, they don't want to spend the extra, whatever it is, $1,200 a job. It could be, or if you need a forklift and scissors, it could add $2,000 to the job.
Yeah.
It was you.
Plus the delay of it.
Right. If we need your stuff and we're getting there, it's like, well, why isn't the job getting done? Well, you guys gave your forklift and then you took it back. And then our guys don't say anything until it's too late. And we're
exactly. They're sitting staring at each other and everybody stops.
So we got the engineering handle, we got the ops manager handle, we got the equipment, where a lot of times we just had our lift. I think our lifts are there right now. Like actually Cody's over going there today.
Is that right? Yeah, you do have some racking that you need to work on from what I hear.
Yeah. So yeah, that was an opportunity, and I really appreciated you. And the whole time it was always professional. And like I said, we weren't breaking up. We were only
just seeing other people.
And you called me back. So,
I called you back. Yep. I realized that I needed you back in my life.
Yeah. And it's been great ever since.
It has.
Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit more too about I didn't realize you dealt with Manhattan at Raley's, but that totally makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like a big Manhattan they're kind of one of there's the big two or big.
They're the big one. Yeah.
Software. And isn't that who you were using with voice pick? I mean, share a little bit about the voice pick, because I think that's one of the things. It was really hot a few years ago when you guys did, and I think people are looking at voice pick. So what are some of the, give us your highlight reel for how to look at voice pick technology.
Yeah. So voice picking it ties into your WMS. So Manhattan, I jump at a grocery outlet, and at my current job we use Vocalect is the company that we use. And it is hands-free. You wear a headset. You have a little portable machine that downloads all your assignments into it, or picks up the assignments, I should say, doesn't download it. Picks up the assignment from the WMS. Everything is slotted. You know what you have to go from. You take the conga line, I call it. You're going down to serpentine to pick all your product, and all you're doing is confirming. It's not a conversation. It's just like, you can't say, where do I go next? It's just saying you're at slot A. You give a check digit confirming you're at slot A. Gives you a quantity. You confirm your quantity, and then you go to the next slot and you do the same thing over and over again. I've picked a paper like we talked about. I did RF picking with a handheld. It was a trigger on your finger, and basically you scan the barcode and then you read it. What told you how many you needed. So that was, and it was just kind of cumbersome. Not wrong, but it was just different. And the voice picking just opened up all kinds of opportunities when we did it because we installed High Jump there, the WMS, brought in Vocalect with it, went to voice picking, and we were running tags at grocery outlet. So it would print out a tag for you, which was a PKMS system, an old Manhattan system. And if you and I had similar orders, we could pick them totally different. You could go down one side of the warehouse, I go down the other, and we could just and that was what the problem was, that everybody was freestyling, doing their own thing. So where with voice, you have to follow that pattern, and you don't know what's next, unless it's a bulk item. Like if you get, I think we had it set up, you had 30 cases or more of an item, it would send you there first. So, and it had to be a heavier item too. It couldn't, if it was 30 cases of cereal, but then you had to go pick wine, it wouldn't send you.
But if you had the paper, you'd have all those options, and somebody could show just the system, and they go, "Well, I'm here. I'm going to get the cereal. It's easier." And now you've got cereal at the bottom, and you've got something heavy.
Exactly. Yeah, and the training was tougher with using when people have to make executive decisions on the floor. You want less executive decisions on the floor and more just follow the pattern. We already got this set up for you, and you can be as efficient as you can. So we bring in Vocalec. It runs great. Everybody loves it. No more stickers, but nobody got any faster.
Okay.
Because it just was easier. It was just like, no. So then the next step was bringing in engineered standards and bringing it in as a bonus program. And really to be able to have people earn more money on their own just by being efficient. It wasn't about being faster. It was about coming off a break and lunch, getting back to work, about having your assignment done and not leaving it in the back corner of the aisles that you got to drive all the way back over there to pick up to go grab your last 4 pieces. Really, between voice and engineer standards, we went from 60 plus temp employees, because we were temp to hire, to 20 something in like 6 weeks.
Wow.
And with temps, they tend to get rid of themselves. They're not committed to the job, or, they're looking for something else or whatever.
Yeah.
Some of it was just, we didn't need to replace. No, we didn't lay anybody off. We just like, well, we don't need them anymore. We don't need them anymore. And people started earning this bonus. And it only takes 1 or 2 people to make a really good bonus check. And we were paying them weekly. So what you did this week, you get paid next week. Immediate return. Yeah. So between the voice and high jump. And so Manhattan's the big dog. High jump was just so good at service. They were just really good at service, taking care of us. If we had questions, we had needs, they were always there. And Vocalec and Honeywell was the vendor, but really just linked so well together. It was just very good, Mark. I can't speak highly enough about Vitech was the name of the company that was the third party that brought them in. They actually are part of High Jump now, which is Corber now, which is a big company out of the EU. But
called again? What's the name?
Corber, Korber. Okay,
so High Jump was a smaller. They weren't one of the big dogs, but they're like
High Jump was big. It was a good size. They had Vitech, which was the consulting group that would come in and install. So they would hire them to come in and do the installs. So they bought out, or they basically took them over. Said, okay, well, we're going to buy you. They bought them, and it was a small consulting group, all great people, and they deserve all. And they became part of that High Jump team, and then High Jump gets bought by Corber out of Europe, who's huge. They're huge.
Okay.
So, but they never lost track of us. When I moved into jobs, because I run High Jump here, their senior team just reached out to me, just called me. Hey, how you doing? What do you need to know? Because they helped install here. I mean, that you can't beat that.
Nice. Yeah. It sounds like I needed somebody from Vitech, the original Vitech team on the podcast. Yeah.
You do. I think I can hook you up with somebody. They're great people. They really are. You can just tell the work ethic and the customer service, and just good guys. They're just a lot of fun.
Yeah, sounds like it. Yeah, that's one of my, I kind of know what people are doing. Like, I have to know about stuff like that enough to be dangerous, right? And what we
Yeah.
And I'm always,
well, your middle name's dangerous.
It kind of is, yeah. So
shoot first, aim later.
Yeah. It's shoot and then aim and then or fire, get ready and then aim.
Good planning.
That's how we started the podcast.
There you go.
We're still aiming right now, and we're about to get ready.
There you go.
So that's great about the voice pick, and I'm glad. I know a lot of people are going to want to hear about that, and just those companies. I've always I have a few friends that own smaller WMS companies. Path Guide Technologies is one. There's another guy named Anthony. I don't even. But a lot of our guys in the wine business, they were looking for something more custom. But I hear for bigger companies, especially you have corporate, you have multiple locations, you got stuff on the East Coast, better using a bigger company because they can give you that service level.
Yeah. Yeah, they got worldwide service, they got 24-hour service, where a smaller company might not be able to give that to you. Or that, once the money's out, it's out. We're not going to, with the Vitech group, and I know that we were still paying to a certain extent. There was nothing for free,
Right.
but at least that little bit of extra. Like if you asked for Brian there, Brian was the one to call you back versus a tech that was, that you now have to explain everything that's going on for them to run a triage and then to come back to you 2 days later and say, yep, we may have found this out.
Which I think most customer relationship management platform, it is like that. It's like press 1 if you need this, press 2 if you need this, press 3, you go all the way down the line and you get there and they ask you as if you started out from ground zero. It's like,
yeah,
I explained it already. This is what we're doing. So that's awesome. And did Vitech help you with the process engineering as well? Or what did you
the engineer standards?
Engineer standards, yeah.
That was Jack Pine Engineering. So I'll send you that contact information. Yeah. And Jack Pine is somebody you might want to get on your podcast too. Charlie over there. I think you might have met Charlie in one of our grocery outlet. He might have been there when you were there. Jason was another one. They were a couple engineers that came in. Well, Charlie owns Jack Pine. His dad started. He started it.
Okay.
And Charlie's just a good dude, and he hires good people that they know how to talk to everybody from the top to the top tier person to the guy picking orders, because they have to follow people picking orders. That's part of the job, and so they don't want them to stress out. They don't want them to think that they're going to go really fast so that I can show that I'm not screwing up, or I'm going to dog it because you're going to base the standards on me going slow. So they already sniff it out and they already know these are the games that get played, or this is the impression that people get. They're very good at just talking to people and say, look, man, this is the way it is. All I'm doing is seeing how the process is, the flow. You personally, you're just part of this. So I'm looking at the flow.
Right. The flow. You get into the flow state in the warehouse.
You get a good flow. If you get efficient, you get that flow to where things look seamless almost, where I see order pickers in there that they never look like they're trying hard, but they're just cruising and getting it done every time and getting above standard and getting good incentive checks because there's no wasted motion. You're an athlete, you work out, that you don't want all this wasted effort. Right. All you're doing is wearing yourself out instead of going in there and just making these nice, smooth, concise moves to where I'm not overexerting, but I'm still getting things done.
Yeah, and the things with the bathroom breaks. And I met a guy, Gary Fisher. I don't know if you've heard of him. I think Michael Thomas knows him. He had a similar program, and he said you look at the breaks, and you look at somebody took a break after all the breaks. It's 15-minute break, but then for 10, it's 10 minutes or 7 minutes or whatever until you pick.
Until they pick the next one. Yeah.
Then you add that up over, or even meetings. You have a tailgate meeting, safety meeting. Yeah. So everybody goes to tailgate meeting, and then there's this lull of like, it takes you 8 minutes to get back on track.
Exactly.
And Gary's thing, it was a program there where you kept track of all that, and then incentive checks. I spoke with Gary at this conference, and one of the people that were using the system, we said, we think we're getting all these better production, and when it rains, everybody should get wet. And that was the bonus checks, right?
Yeah.
Rain, everybody should get, and people were stoked about it. And that brings back kind of that competitive morale building thing that you were talking about at Raley's. When you first got started, it was like, hey, I'm hustling, I'm in flow.
I'm flowing,
and I'm getting it, and it's adding to my paycheck. So I love that.
Yeah.
I love that concept.
And it works better with voice too, by the way. Just to go back to voice, it works so much better with voice. It is because there isn't wasted movement with voice. You're just talking.
Yeah, and you actually hands free, right? So whatever you were using,
you're hands free. Yeah.
So if
you're using a gun or you're using a trigger, or whatever, it's just in your way a little bit. It's not. It's made so that it stays out of your way, but it is to a certain extent. If you're picking heavy boxes of beef, trust me, a little scanner is not what you want. Or if you're carrying a gun, how are you supposed to, you're going to put the gun down somewhere. Yeah. So that's when they get lost. That's when they get damaged. That's when somebody hit the button by accident. I don't know how many I'm supposed to pick now. All that hands-free voice is just, plus it's in our world with Siri and Echo and everything. You're talking to computers all the time anyway.
It is. The voice recognition software is just it's fantastic. Yeah. Except for text. For some reason, I can't voice text, or I have this thing where my voicemail box is always full in, but sometimes my voicemail box reads it out to you. And sometimes I'll sit there and read them because it's so funny because it isn't.
Yeah.
But this it doesn't say what they wanted to say.
No.
It's like,
so I get messages from Sac City Unified. And when you read it every time, it's the school district here. It says, "Hey, Sexy Unified." You know,
I'm sexy. I'm sexy unified.
Yeah. So I saw the boy's mom, her friend, posted that. She goes, "It just really makes my day when I get a voicemail from them. It just makes my day because they're calling me sexy."
Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't. I don't know why. And when I'm driving and trying to talk or text, voice text, it never comes out right.
Yeah.
I just send it. Let them, where I'm sending it to, you can figure it out. I think you don't, I didn't mean to say Ghana in the middle of that. It's
you got to take the joke and go.
Exactly.
Yeah. So there was another huge, and I kind of want to bring this up because he called me one time. It was on like a Tuesday night, and you invited me to the Landmark Forum, and I'm always so I've told you before, I told you this story, but I got enrolled in the possibility of the Landmark Forum when I was like 10 years old.
Yeah.
From the movie Semi Tough, and I was watching on TV, so it was probably came out in 77, so it was probably like 80, 81. And I remember asking my dad, like, what is this professional football player, and he's got to go to this seminar. And my favorite part is because Burt Reynolds rigs up a catheter.
Yeah.
And because they wouldn't let you go to the bathroom. That was the thing.
Yeah, you're locked in there for days, right?
Locked in. And that skit is great. I mean, I think I'm going to put it in the show notes.
I think you should. I just look. It's Burt Convey is the host of that.
Is that who it was? Burt Convey?
It's Burt Convey. Yep. He was in a bunch of Burt Reynolds movies. He was in Semi Tough. He was in Cannonball Run. All those movies. He was a big 70s, 80s guy.
Yeah. And I remember asking
with the big hair.
I'm like, what is this about? Because at the time I wanted to be a professional athlete, right? Like I'm 10, 11. I'm like, well, I'm bigger kid or everything. I'll go pro. Yeah. And I'm thinking, man. And I said, well, why would they have him go to this? And my dad goes, well, sometimes it was my stepdad actually. He said people have, screwed up families or something. He goes, they go to get, and I looked around at my, so I was like, oh. I'm like, okay, so I am going to need to go to this someday. And I was in a mastermind thing right before you'd invited me that. They were bringing up the Landmark Forum because it is like one of the most powerful transformational. I mean, I was one of the most powerful programs that I've ever been involved with. I mean, I was blown away, but I heard people talking about it and they were saying, it was other people in the group I was in, like a group of business owners. They call it a mastermind, but it's basically like group coaching, and a lot of the people had been to it. So I looked it up online, and it's kind of like an invitation. It's not invitation only. You could go and sign it, but the way it kind of works is it's like invitation. So I'm like, well, somebody's got to invite me to this thing, and you did, man.
Yeah.
It was.
I thought of you when I went through it. I thought of you because of our conversations. We have some deep conversations, and I thought, Mark's gonna like this. This is something that's right up his alley.
It was. I'm always looking for opportunities. I mean, you took me to the introduction, and it's funny. So I went to the introduction with you, and I was like, I'm signing up. I'm like, yeah, somebody finally invited me to this thing. And you told me it was at 7. It was like at 7 or 7:30. So I told my wife, I'm going to this thing in Sacramento at 7. She's like, what time is it over? I go, I'll probably be over at like 8:30. And I remember they didn't give us.
It goes on and on. Yep.
Yeah. Well, that's my shoot and then aim and get ready, because I didn't even read what you sent me. The thing, it said 7 to 10. And it's actually kind of better, because if it was 7 to 10, maybe I wouldn't have gone. But I remember the break. I told you, I told my wife 8:30. It's like 9. I go, I'm definitely signing up for this thing, but you got to sneak me out of here, man.
Yeah. I had to go recon for you.
Yeah. They don't lock the door anymore, and you can't go to the bathroom. I mean, it is. But all those things made sense. It's like, if you're going to be here, it's kind of like you're saying in the warehouse with the breaks and everything. Like, do you really need to go to the bathroom, or can you wait? 20 minutes where we have a break where everybody. So
exactly. It's the commitment, right?
Yeah, and it is. I did that for them, and it's just been so many good things on my life. And I've thanked you in person too, publicly here. But that, I've had a few other people go. I've invited other clients. I've invited people that didn't go. But I think it's everyone in the company has been to it of our company. So
that's cool. You go in there with the open mind, and anything's possible. And that's what they're selling, is anything's possible. You go in there with this intimidation. So I went in there because my daughter asked me to go. Asked, which Libby, of course, but she asked me to go and asked her mom to go. And her mom was kind of like, she did it first, and then she goes, "It'll be okay. Don't overthink this. Be okay. And you should do it for your daughter."
Yeah.
She uses a couple other words for me, but she said basically, go do it for your daughter.
Those 4-letter adjectives.
Yes.
I love them.
You pile of, sugar. So I go, and I was intimidated. It was very intimidating. I didn't go with open mind. The thought of being there for 3 days and then a follow-up day with a bunch of people you don't know. And then the stories that come out of there are just, some of them are extreme, and some of them are just, somebody's got their problems that they're just have to talk about, that they have no opportunity to talk to anybody else. And it's a emotional roller coaster.
Yeah.
And then you got to make calls, talk about your past. And I was really, at the end of it, I didn't speak a whole lot. And then when I went back to that Tuesday, I felt bad that I didn't speak. I thought, here was my opportunity, and I didn't take advantage of that opportunity. Nobody's judging.
Yeah.
And maybe maybe my story helped somebody else.
Right.
And I was selfish, and I felt like, I'm okay. And then, but one call to my mom, and man, the sprinklers were on.
Yeah.
It was rough. All that, and they talk about it. And I thought the best thing was forgive your parents. They're doing the best they can.
Yeah.
They did the best they could. They're not perfect. They're humans. It's okay, because they talked about 3 times in your life that things affect you. When you're small, very little, 2 years old, and then preteen, and then adult teen, and all those things that apply. Somebody said something wrong, or your parents were pissed off and they yelled at you or something like that, and you can't get over it. It's to extreme cases. Some of those people that were in there had some serious trauma.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they had no outlets. And the hosts there, the people that do the classes, they're amazing.
Yeah. Very good.
Amazing people. Yeah.
I mean, the training is on the money. I mean, they've been doing it since 1974. It hasn't really, they've changed a few things, but Warner Earhart created it. I mean, I looked at it. I've been studying transformational leadership or everything for 20 years, and I was blown away. And it's a state change on Tuesday. Like, I'm so glad you called me on that Tuesday, because you're in like a different state after going through it. It's like the whole body. There's like a shift. So we're gonna have to wrap this up. I'm just having more fun, but I wanted to ask you. And I know we had Nancy on, and I know you're doing. Are you doing her? Nancy Fatine. I interviewed her.
The 75-day challenge.
And she got that off Transformational Leadership Podcast. Yeah. So are you doing that? And is there any other podcasts or resources that are like your favorites that you
So I start mine on the 31st. Got a little mini vacation. So not going to try to start an angle on mini vacation. I want to succeed. I'm not going to put more, I've done enough of these to know that don't make things tougher on you. That doesn't help. And forgive yourself. It's okay. It's not, all the weight's not coming back on, or, I'm not going to be shredded in a week. It'll be okay. So I'm going to start on the 31st. That's 75-day challenge. And my girl goes, well, I know you're going to pick the hard one, huh? Because there's a hard, middle, and soft. Because you're going to pick the hard one, huh? But the softer ones and the middle ones, there's a lot more deeper thinking, a lot more forgiveness, a lot more support. And the hard one is, really, it just talks to me. It speaks to me. I'm like, I'm going with that one. That's the one. And she goes, I knew it. She goes, well, it's also simple, and I need it simple.
Yeah. And we'll
follow a good diet, read 10 pages a day, get moving twice a day, all that. I need something simple.
Yeah.
And I love that interview. I thought she was great. I was really hyped up. And I thought the first thing I did was Google 75 days.
Nice.
And I'm down for it. Yeah, I feel that need where I need a shift again, that transformation, right? Where we're always learning, we're always trying to get better. And that 75 days to make it simple and I don't have to overthink it, I got it.
Yeah.
As long as I don't overthink it. I think, let me put it that way. So stop myself from overthinking.
Yeah. You're overthinking that you might be overthinking it.
Exactly.
Wait, am I overthinking it or not? Like, I don't know. Exactly. I need to think about this. And then
as my head blows off, the top of my head blows off. Yeah.
So I started yesterday and I'm doing it. And
nice.
Nancy's been a huge I've known her. We both started our company at the same time. I didn't realize that until I interviewed her about 2005. And yeah, she was great. She rocked that. And I ended it a little bit too quickly on that because it was one of my first ones and I was running out of time. And so we're going to do part 2 with Nancy.
Nice. Yeah, I look forward to it. That's great.
Yeah.
So some of the other stuff, I got to tell you something, Mark. I'm not sucking up. Your podcast is really speaking to me right now. I really enjoyed it. I've listened to every one of your podcasts twice already.
Nice.
I thought with Michael, it was great. With Phillips was great. I mean, and Nancy, it was just, they're really good. I think you're doing a hell of a job. I'm proud of you. This is very good stuff.
Oh man, thank you. That means a lot. That means a lot coming from you. And
I appreciate that.
Yeah. Any other? We're gonna have to wrap up. So I need the Dow Pizza podcast.
So the only things I listen to, it was funny you talked to Phillips and Tim Ferris. Like I can take Tim Ferris, some of it. The 4-Hour Work Week, I really do enjoy that book. I thought he really killed it. He killed it before COVID, and a lot of the things he talked about then, you could apply in COVID with all the working from home and all the technology that was changing and Zoom and all that. I mean, it really is. I thought he was like, wow, he killed it. And this was like 12 years ago you wrote that.
Even longer, I think.
2008, maybe?
I think 2000. I mean, I can't.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize it was that old.
We're going to have it. It'll be in the notes section. But I remember I read 4-Hour Body. So I never read 4-Hour Work Week. I kind of got the cliff notes on it. But I read 4-Hour Body cover to cover. It was like some kind of, and really the diet I used came out of that 4-hour. It's not really paleo. It's not really, I mean, it's kind of paleo. It's kind of, not everything, but it's just kind of, and his favorite thing, and I don't think the 75-day transformation, this is the one caveat I have, and I love this, but with Tim Ferriss is you eat 100% on for 6 days and you have one cheat day.
Yeah, you told me that, yeah.
And there's always kind of worked for me. I don't think this one has, I don't think there's any cheat days on.
You don't get a cheat day. You got to start over.
Start over if you're cheat days, but
My cheat days, I go to cheat days. That's the problem. If I cheat, then it just becomes a new trend. So it's not, I try to just avoid it. It's either all or nothing with just the way I'm wired.
Yeah.
With anything.
I try to do it only one challenge a year. And I usually do 90 days, but I mean, 75 is basically the same thing. It's like 12 weeks.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're doing it. I'm committing to you.
Nice.
On this. And the Tim Ferriss, it looks like I'm not a huge fan, but I've read every single one of his books.
I know it. Yeah. I think it's just the rest of it that goes with it, right? Well, but I listen to me and the boys. Go ahead.
I think he's great. I mean, one of the first podcasts I ever listened to. I mean, I think the way he connects the dots across, different things that works in one industry works in another. I don't think anybody connects the dots the way he does. And I don't think, I'm joking when I say I'm not a huge fan but I've read everything because that's like a oxymoron.
Yeah, that's obviously you're a fan.
No, I'm not a fan. I'm not read every single book and every single podcast, and he was involved in Audible. But I think a lot of the followers, he's like super gung ho, and I think it's more of the followers of the Tim Ferriss culture.
True.
I don't even that people criticize. It's not really even criticizing Tim Ferriss. You're criticizing followers, right? So
yeah, true. That's a good point. I like Rogan too, and Rogan's followers can be a little extreme too.
Exactly.
But he's funnier than hell. I just think he's a cool guy. I'm just listening to him. I got another one. So my boys and I listen to. My boys are 11 and 14. Stuff you should know.
Yeah.
And Stuff You Should Know is just two dudes talking about general stuff. We're listening to one about Scooby-Doo right now. The history of Scooby-Doo and all that. And we listen to Legos. We listen to beached whales. I mean, it's just random stuff that they have a subject on. And it's just two guys, and they're researchers. So, but they're just, there's some camaraderie, and it's just, and the boys and I get a kick out of it. And the other one, the guy that really, he changed my life when I went to follow his primal diet was Mark Sisson. and he owns Primal Kitchen Foods now. But Mark Sisson go to his podcast, if you listen to the old stuff where it's him talking, he knows Tim Ferris, he knows Rogan, he knows all these guys. He's a health guy. And his primal stuff, he calls it primal. It's paleo based, but it's more, I think he helped build Whole30. So he supported Melissa, who created that. And it's just a good natural diet. It's nothing extreme. It's not carnivore or vegan or anything like that. It's just eat foods that you know what they are. Exactly. Not processed crap. Don't go to the fast food every other day. Don't eat 14 loaves of bread, right. Or drink, a 12-pack of soda, have some common sense, but move. His thing is movement. Keep moving. And he's an entrepreneur too. So some of his business stuff that he's done, if I'll send you one that it talks about his history and his entrepreneurship or entrepreneur mentality is amazing. And he sold Primal Kitchen Foods to, I think, Kraft, General Mills, one of them, for millions of dollars. But all he did was create a mayonnaise, best mayonnaise in the world, Primal Kitchen Foods mayonnaise. Sold at Grocery Outlet, by the way.
Nice. That's great. We needed that. Right? Yeah.
Avocado oil base. Yeah. Avocado oil base, and it's really good stuff. Wow. And he created dressings off of that. He's still part of that business. He's just an impressive guy, and I enjoy listening to him. He has guest hosts, and they get into, they'll interview people in the health world, and something it's too much. Sometimes with the health stuff, it's too much for me. It becomes overwhelming, and then I'll gravitate to the stuff that they talk about with shortcuts. Where, I eat this, and it doesn't even bother me. I'm like, well, I can go eat that, and it won't bother me. And then it does bother me, but I'm over here listening to some jackass I don't even know giving me advice about eating chocolate donuts, and now all of a sudden I'm a chocolate donut aficionado.
Right. Bag of them.
Yeah, exactly. So they're all good. I like Rogan, Tim Ferriss, all those guys. I mean, they're impactful. Tony Robbins, all these guys. And Mark, I think you're doing a hell of a job. I really do.
Well, man, thank you. Thank you, Joe. And we're going to wrap this up. Yes, we've been talking with Joe Ferris here, warehousing, logistics, and supply chain rock star. Joe, thank you so much for sharing your inspiring stories and ideas. This has been great. Great.
Right on. Thanks, Mark. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
All right, brother.
Thanks for listening to the Tao of Pizza podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.